as the Sixers beat the Celtics last night, and we got a lot of questions off of that game. Tom Moore, columnist, long-time coverage of the Sixers for you, as he joins us here from the County Courier Times on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Tom, welcome back, man. How you been?
Fine, thanks. Shall I say gentlemen and Moshe?
Touche, Tom. Touche.
Good to talk to you, Moshe.
Yeah, you too, buddy.
Yeah, it's nice to see you there, Moshe. So, Tom, it was, last night, obviously, the first night, they get the information before the game that Embiid's going to be out for quite a time. And obviously, they look different. So I want to start with this. Is this a good thing that they're going to get this time without Embiid, or is it going to be, okay, they look good without Embiid, and then when we got to bring Embiid back, now what?
I think they'll have nights where it goes well, like last night. But I think over the next, and whatever 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever, who knows exactly at this point. But most projections and look, Marcus Aldridge's injury, he did it to his thumb. The same thing to his thumb, and other examples all seem to be in that 4 to 8 week range. They'll have nights where it works well and think, they're effective and they share the ball and everybody gets involved, but there's going to be other nights too, where they're, second night of a back-to-back, maybe they're a little flat or they can't run and they're stuck in the half-court offense. They don't have that low-post guy that they can count on. And you have to worry, frankly, with Joel Embiid. He put on weight when he was suspended for 2 games earlier this year. So how is he going to – he's told us repeatedly he doesn't like swimming. He doesn't like the treadmill. He doesn't like to do anything but play basketball. And I guess he could dribble with his right hand, but, he can't really shoot or do a whole lot, with a ring finger on his left hand. So, you need to make sure there's enough time to get him back in shape and incorporate him back, even if they're playing well or whatever. Things are clearly going to change at both ends of the court. When he does return. So it can help guys like Josh Richardson and Tobias Harris and so on be more aggressive. And they'll push the ball with Ben Simmons, running the point more with Embiid out. But, Brett Brown was asked that about, could this be a good thing? And he said, I understand what you're saying, but I don't really kind of view it that way, that, this is our guy and we need him back and for us to win in the playoffs. And, frankly, the chances of getting a top 2 seed, or let's say a number 2 seed in the East, aren't improved. So if you get a 3rd or a 4th seed, you got to win on the road in the second round, assuming you win in the first round of the playoffs. So, there's a lot of things that kind of go into this. And Al Horford's played a lot of minutes. He's going to play a lot of minutes now as the primary center. He was the starting 4 and the main backup 5. He's going to play 30-plus minutes a game probably as a starting center. So there's a lot of things kind of, out there that are going to change. And, it could help a little bit per se, but in the long run, I don't think it's much, if any, of a benefit.
Yeah, for instance, Horford had a good game last night, but he's playing a role that he's probably not going to be playing once Joel comes back. So is this, I don't want to say counterproductive, but is this kind of like, okay, I'm comfortable in this role, and now you're switching me back to a role that I wasn't as productive in?
Yeah, well, the 5 is really the position he's played mostly in Boston. I think he is more comfortable there, whether he plays inside or outside. Chasing 4s in this league, the power forwards are not, what they were 20 years ago or 25 years ago. So I think it's easier for him in one way. But yes, he is, this doesn't help Brett Brown figure out what to do with Embiid and Horford together, in the half-court offense, where both are pretty good post-up guys, but you can't post everybody up, and you need the proper spacing and, shooters around him, et cetera, et cetera. So, he has played both. He's been around a lot of years. I think he can adapt, pretty well. But, maybe some younger guys and other players, their roles, are going to be different for the foreseeable future. And then we'll either revert back to what they were or change yet again, when Embiid gets back.
Speaking of roles, Tom, kind of an open-ended question here, but I'm curious whose role outside of Ben and Joel you think needs to have a more definition and more clarity between now and the end of the year for this team to really reach its goals?
Yeah, that's a good question, Moshe. I mean, Brett Brown likes to have a fairly set rotation. Regular seasons like 9 or 10 guys, usually playoffs, maybe 8 or 9 guys. You tighten it a little bit, shorten the bench. The backup point guard for a while was Neto, and now it's Trey Burke, and O'Quinn was the third big man for a while.
Yeah, let me stop. I kind of mean among the starting 5 though, because we know we kind of know what we're getting from Ben and Joel on a nightly basis, but it seems like there's just an inconsistency. Like for me, it's Josh Richardson because I feel like he can be a catalyst, but he's really struggling to find his way. But I know some people feel that about Horford as well.
Yeah, right. No, Richardson, I was encouraged Monday night, even with Embiid, Moshe, he came out was very aggressive and attacked the rim, and he did the same thing last night, had 11 points in the first quarter, really helped the Sixers, get off to a pretty good start and withstand Boston, Marcus Smart and Kemba Walker just couldn't miss for a while. They were just killing the Sixers with the threes.
Yeah.
But, I think Richardson and Harris, I think Tobias Harris, they needed him anyway. But perhaps this will – and the funny thing is both guys are similar in that sometimes Richardson and Harris defer too much. And Brett Brown keeps telling them, look for your shot. Be more aggressive. If you can get guys involved somewhat. But, last year Tobias Harris did a lot of that because, he came in late and Jimmy Butler was already there. And, Redick was, shot so many threes and was really good in a two-man game with Embiid. But they really need aggressive. They really need Tobias Harris to be more aggressive, both drive into the basket, which he did a good job in the third quarter last night doing that, and from the perimeter. And I agree, Josh Richardson, the same thing, because he's quick, he can get to the rim, he's a pretty good outside shooter. I mean, he's not J.J. Redick, but he's a pretty good three-point shooter. I think to me those are the two main guys. I think Horford, you kind of have a pretty good idea what you're going to get within reason on a nightly basis, but I think those are two guys that can really be difference makers, and perhaps when Embiid comes back, then still maintain that, attack mode.
Tom, it's Ryan. You talked a lot about players deferring, and I've brought this up a lot throughout the season, the indecisiveness that you see on the offensive side of the floor. And do you attribute that to Brett Brown's overall philosophy and what he likes to do on the offensive side of the ball? Because he's come out and said it over the past few weeks. He's starting to call more plays, and they're having success doing that. But he likes to have an open-ended type of philosophy. But does this team need to have their hand held a little bit in order to get going offensively over a stretch of time?
It seems like they do, Ryan. The analytics say that the Sixers have been much better with Brown calling more plays. It's just an interesting kind of dynamic because Ben Simmons wants to run. He's clearly better in the open court. Embiid is a half-court guy. So your two best players have different, kind of preferences in terms of style of play that they're suited toward. And it was the same situation last year when you had, Jimmy Butler wanted the half court and the pick and rolls, and Simmons wanted to run, and you can't satisfy everyone all the time, and ultimately you kind of have to decide what you're going to be. I guess they can attack, and if you can't get anything in the fast break and the up tempo offense, then you kind of settle back into the half court, wait for Embiid to get down the court if he's not already, and if he has a favorable matchup, throw it to the wing, get it inside to him, and see what he can do. But you're right. That was not Brett Brown's philosophy for almost all of his first 6 years. He wanted a free-flowing motion offense, kind of, take whatever happens, utilize whatever advantage or mismatch you can get. And now it's a lot more, pick and rolls and more set plays, posting up a particular player or, whatever it is. So it is interesting, but, you have to cater, it can't be round, the square peg round hole. I mean, if your players are better in a half court offense, you got to run, you got to run more plays in a half court offense. If it turns out you're better running, you got to run more. And I think they're going to try to run more. They weren't able to get out as much last night, especially because the Celtics made so many shots they couldn't get out on the break. But it's a very interesting thing to watch because it is so counter to what Brett Brown had done for so long. And it's an adjustment for him, and it's an adjustment for some of the players that have been here that are used to kind of just motion and, figure it out kind of on the fly.
What's the answer for when Embiid does come back and when this team hopefully is fully healthy entering the postseason? Because when Embiid's in the lineup, we've heard it from Brett Brown, they need spacing. They need Embiid in the paint. Brett Brown has said that is Joe's paint, which is all true. But how this team is built, then you have a 6'10" point guard who isn't shooting and becomes a liability in half-court sets. Then you have Al Horford, who you're not really sure what to do with. And then you have Josh Richardson and Tobias Harris just kind of trying to fit in. So is that overblown a little bit, or is that a potential downfall for you later in the season?
Just kind of incorporating everybody and kind of figuring it out once he does come back?
Pretty much, right? Yeah, their identity with Embiid on the floor.
Yeah, it's probably going to revert back to what it has been when he's played, in the first, whatever it is, 2.5 months of the season. I mean, when you have a guy with that skill set, who moves the way he can, who can score, who's so quick and such good footwork for a big guy, and can also kind of pound it inside, you're probably going to end up, going to him a lot. So it's going to kind of revert back to him unless, the last 2 years in the playoffs, he was not healthy and he was not himself, and they did not run as many post-ups. And I asked Brett Brown about it last year. How come Joel Embiid's taking so many threes? And his answer was logical. I hadn't thought of it, that if you stand at the three-point line, you only have to run, 70 feet up and down the court. If you go down in the post, you got to run 85 feet each time. So just his leg-wise, with being the knee issue, and then he had the upper respiratory infection against the Nets, he physically wasn't able to. And the year before, he got out of shape and, couldn't take Aaron Baines one-on-one in that Celtics series when that's normally would be a great matchup for the Sixers. So if you have to, first of all, assume he's going to be in shape and ready and capable of playing 35 minutes at a high level and not have to kind of disappear at times because, he's got to catch his wind or, he's a little overwhelmed or whatever it is. So I think that's what they're hoping to do, but depending how long he'll be out, if it's 8 weeks, you're talking early mid-March, and that's the season only has, 5 6 weeks left at that point, which is probably about as late as you'd like him coming back to make sure he's ready, for the playoffs. So, Brett Brown's going to have to kind of figure that out based on where Embiid is, when they start the playoffs that third weekend in April.
Tom Moore is with us here, covers the Sixers, sports columnist for the Bucks County Courier Times. And all right, so I think it was you last night because somebody asked Richardson, like, hey, you were more aggressive with Embiid out. And then you said, well, you were aggressive the other night when he was in the game. Is this more of him kind of just finding his way now, getting a better feel of the talent around him? And do you anticipate that he is feeling more comfortable and that should help his output on the offensive end?
Yeah, I think a lot of it with him is just, kind of adjusting to a new situation, not wanting to step on toes. He does a lot of things well, but now I think he's heard it enough, and his teammates and Brett Brown have said it, that he can, in certain situations against, particular guys, beat them to the rim or look for his three-pointer or his mid-range game more so. So I think, we'll see, tomorrow night in Dallas, but based on the last two games, the way he came out, and like you said and I said, the Monday night game with Embiid, he was very aggressive and really attacked from the start. So for the Sixers, obviously, it would be best if he continues doing that with or without Embiid.
Yeah, I was paying attention, Tom. I do pay attention.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I try to pay attention, but sometimes your mind wanders a little bit.
Yeah, especially yours. I've known you for a while.
Yeah. Where are we?
Speaking of wandering minds, that's a great segue. I heard Doug Peterson today say, Tom, on Philly radio, that this year was both exhausting and exhilarating at the same time. And I wonder, as you talk with Brett Brown through yet another major injury and another lineup that's not going to be the expected lineup in the playoffs, if you're getting a sense of his kind of, I don't know, mindset, his frustration level. I mean, I know we talked about that he's not saying this is a good thing that Joel is out and we get to, learn to win without him. But how do you feel it's weighing on him at all?
Yeah, I mean, he said all the right things last night, and he's looking forward to it's kind of a new opportunity, and no one's going to feel sorry for us, and we don't feel sorry for ourselves, and he's kind of excited to see what happens with the guys that he has. But, yeah, I mean, it's not going to help him get a higher seed in the East. It's not going to increase the chances of home court in the second round, which are all important things if you're planning on making the conference finals. Mm-hmm. Having that second seed is huge. So I think short term, it's not a bad thing. If he was going to miss a week or maybe even 2 weeks, so you're talking 3 to 7 games, something like that, not as big a deal. But when you have to go through, most likely at least 4 weeks, so you're talking, 15 games or so, roughly during that span, and then you have the All-Star break, and then kind of the last stretch run with a little under 30 games to go once the All-Star game's over. I mean, it really becomes a sprint. So I mean, he can try different things. I think his line before the game was something about, he was asked, are you going to adjust the rotation? Something about taking a blowtorch and what was it, Mike? Take a blowtorch.
I wasn't in the pregame.
Yeah,
blowtorch and a bullet.
I was leaning on you to read.
It was a blowtorch and a bullet to what he had done before.
Yeah.
So let me get this right. Ryan, who wasn't there, got the quote. You two guys who were there.
No, I wasn't there in the pregame.
You weren't there. Okay.
No.
I was there, and I tweeted it out. But my mind wanders all the time, so I can't remember anything.
Yeah.
Real quick though. Go ahead. Yeah.
So anything and everything is kind of open. So he can try some things, perhaps he'll discover some things that he might be able to utilize once Embiid gets back. What combinations work better? Seems like, for example, Simmons and Richardson are working well together, kind of a two-man game. That seems to be more productive. And Brett Brown is using it more than he did early in the season, that he is realizing that can work. So perhaps he can come up with, things like that, maybe put Tobias Harris in more pick and rolls to let him take advantage of, his skill set. Now he's probably playing more 4, played a lot of 3 before. So there are things that are definitely going to change, and there are things that he'll be able to try, and either it works, we can use it, or this isn't working, let's throw that away and try something else.
Well, here's it seems that the Sixers kind of have the Celtics number all of a sudden, which is kind of reversed from the last couple of years. You would say that they put this team together with Milwaukee in mind. They have the ability to kind of handle them, but I would ask you, Tom, you've been around a lot of these teams, and we always try to find what's the identity of this team. It seems that this injury has at least stunted whatever identity they were searching for with Joel.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Could you repeat that last part?
It seems that whatever identity they were searching for has now been stunted again because Joel is out. Like if they didn't have an identity and they were kind of searching for it,
right?
It's now going to kind of be stunted again because he's not here. So is it feasible to think that this team is going to have an identity come playoff time?
I mean, it has to be defense, but obviously, without Embiid, the only rim protector is Norvell Pell, and he's on a 2-way contract, so he only has 45 days with the team. So they may have to make up their mind and maybe sign him for the rest of the season and perhaps cut like Kyle O'Quinn or somebody like that to create a spot, because he is the only other guy besides Embiid, on the roster who is a real rim protector, who can block shots, who can roll to the basket on offense, get alley-oops, give him 3 or 4 minute bursts where he a lot of energy and make things happen. But yeah, they're going to have to defend better on the perimeter, and make some adjustments. Horford's not a bad interior defender, but he's certainly not Joel Embiid. So they're going to have to figure some things out. And it's far from ideal. It keeps happening. But the games don't stop. It's not like, we don't have our best guy. We need a break. Guess what? You're playing Saturday night and you're playing, on the road Monday night, and you come home next Wednesday, and, it just keeps going.
There's always something with this team, Tom. It keeps us all employed.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I forgot to say last night. Mark Narducci, who's the number 2 writer with the Inquirer, said, "Too bad when you come here, there's never anything to write because there's always stuff going on, always stuff."
He would
happening.
Also trump you as the nicest man in the world.
Oh, by far.
It's not even close.
Yeah.
He's so much nicer than me. It's not even pathetic. I think he's the hardest working media person in Philadelphia. He's unbelievable.
I think Narducci's insulted that he was just in the same sentence as you.
Yeah, really. He should. If he isn't, he's so nice. He should be.
Tom Moore, everybody, covers the Sixers, covers all the sports in Philly. Columnist, longtime Sixer beat writer at Tom Moore Philly on Twitter. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks a lot, guys.